Today we are talking about understanding students with ADHD for Professional Development Day. The percentage of students served, there's about 6.1 million students who have been diagnosed with ADHD, and out of those 6.1 million, approximately 11% of the children that are diagnosed are being served. Some have other conditions other than just ADHD. They have behavior or conduct problems, they have anxiety, and there's been an increase in the number of identified students. 2 million more have been identified. Some of the reasons for this increase are coming from the students' bad sleep habits, lack of structure. There is no structure in their home or wherever they're at or at school to keep them in line and keep things going. Too much indoor play. They're not getting outside and being a child and getting to do what they need to do. There's an overdiagnosis where parents are wanting the doctors to just give them the magic pill for their kid, so they're not truly have ADHD. And then we have video game use, where the children are sitting in front of a television or a computer playing video games way too much instead of getting out and doing what they need to do, exercising and getting physical activity or taking care of their schoolwork. Some of the characteristics or behaviors of students with ADHD. Some like to fidget and squirm. They have to mess with something all the time, or they're squirming around in their chair. The inability to stay still. They can't stay put in one place. They have to be moving all the time. Some of them blurt out answers. They're not waiting for their turn to be called on or to do what they're asked to do. They just keep spitting stuff out constantly. They like to interrupt others. When somebody else is having a conversation, they like to put their 2 cents worth in all the time and interrupt what other people are talking about. They run around or climb constantly. There's some that they're climbing all over everything. They're all over the furniture, or if they're in a store, they're climbing all over all kinds of other stuff. They cannot stay focused, so they can't stay focused on what they're working on or the project at hand. They want to go off into la la land and look at this and look at that and just continue to be distracted. And they do not follow through with instructions. They have a very hard time following through with instructions that are given to them. And now we have the differences in the characteristics or degree of behavior. We have inattentive ADHD, which students are distracted easily and have a hard time paying attention. These students, they don't turn in complete work. Their assignments are not completed. They have difficulty attending to conversations, activities, or tasks in front of them. And they're easily distracted. They frequently lose their stuff. They can't keep track of a notebook or an assignment. They lose their assignments all the time. And then they have difficulty organizing tasks and materials, keeping all their stuff in line. They can't do that. Then we have the hyperactive, impulsive ADHD, where the student is very active and acts quickly. They have to be in motion all the time. They frequently fidget or move in their seat, so they're like this all the time instead of sitting still and paying attention. They become restless during quiet activities. When they're supposed to be quiet, they're like moving around trying to find something to do to try to keep their attention. They get out of their chair when they're supposed to stay seated in their chair. And they interrupt others in classroom activities. So they don't want to do just their activity. They're going to go interrupt another group or the activity that's going on there. And they talk a lot, talk very excessively, and they fail to follow classroom procedures. So they're going to blurt out answers without raising their hand. And then we have the combined ADHD, which are the combined characteristics of inattentive ADHD as well as the hyperactive, impulsive ADHD. So they have symptoms that include behaviors from both of these categories. Sometimes I'm not sure if that would be a good thing or not, because if you're going to be in constant motion and then you can't complete your work and you're very unorganized, the characteristics of both of those don't go together at all. When it comes to IDEA, which they classify ADHD under the category of other health impairments. So that means they're not as special ed or needing a 50 or an IEP, excuse me. Some may have a 504 that accommodate for their lack of organization or keeping track of assignments and stuff like that. So, and then we have some effective class-wide intervention that we can do. And our class-wide intervention is, we can use some small groups versus large groups. So we're not going to have, 4 or 5 kids in a group. We could do a group of 2 or 3 versus a group of 4 or 5. We're going to use some timers so that the kids know, hey, I got to get this done in X amount of time. So when that goes off, then they know, oh, my time's up. I can't continue to lose track of what's going on. I have to stay focused on the task at hand, because if I'm not done with this when this timer goes off, then I'm in trouble. And I may have to have homework or get a bad grade because I didn't finish the assignment. We can use some visual aids to show them, hey, if we do this, then this is what will happen. Or this is a picture of a triangle, and this is how we find the perimeter. We add all 3 sides of the triangle together to find the perimeter. And we can also praise these students for their positive work. We can use verbal praise, as well as you can, verbal praise, and then you can just praise the student, in front of the teachers or other things like that to let them know, hey, you're doing a good job. And then you can have a reward choice for a certain activity. So like say, hey, you get this done in this amount of time, then this is your activity. You get to this. You can go outside to outside to play for 15 extra minutes, or you can go paint or play Play-Doh for 15 extra minutes. You need to redirect the students. So if they're off task, you need to make sure to let them know, hey, this is what we've got to do. We've got to get back on task. We can't just continue to be goofing around. This is the task at hand, and this is what needs to be finished in this amount of time. We can also give them smaller amount of instruction. So, don't say, okay, you've got to add these 3 numbers, then multiply, then divide. You can tell them, okay, first off, we're going to add these numbers. And then after they've accomplished that, then we can tell them, okay, now we're going to multiply this number by this number. And then after they've taken care of that, then we can tell them, okay, now we're going to divide this number by this number, so that they don't have so much that they have to try to remember at one time. Because once they get too much going on, then they're not going to know which step to do first, and vice versa. Or we can cut their work down. We can give them smaller assignments. Like say the class has 63 problems in math. We can cut their problems down to 30. This way they won't get lost as much trying to figure out, okay, well, here I still got this many more, and then when they get off task, they're going to lose the fact that they've got 20 more problems to do versus, oh, I'm off task, now I only have 10 more problems to do. And then we could also use a planner. This planner can be so they can send notes home to parents to let parents know what's going on and what interventions we're using, and they can be they check it every day. Make sure the parents have signed it or something so that they know it has been checked. Or we can use that planner to send around, like if they're changing classes, to send around to the other teachers to let them know what we're doing to accommodate for their ADHD, if we're making any modifications or such. And that way that other teachers can check it. And then if they do go to the special ed room, then it can be checked in with the special ed teacher as well. These are just a few of the things that can be done to intervene in class-wide And you can also give corrective feedback. Some students require brief, simple correction for disruptive behaviors. So you can be directed at the student's behavior, not the student. Tell them, no shout outs, please. Raise your hand so that they don't interrupt. There's lots of things that you can do to intervene to make the classroom a better place for these students. Thank you.